A man is secretly recording your every move with a hidden eye. Archangel Michael says, the curtain is moving when the windows are closed, and the floorboards are whispering your name when your feet are still. I see the filament of a plan stretched too tight in the shadows, a gaze that does not blink, a lens that waits for the exact tilt of your head. I have come to split the quiet like lightning and stand between you and the watcher whose patience is not kindness but hunger. You did not notice the first signal because it wore the face of ordinary life. The lamp hum deepened for a second and went back to sleep, like a tired cricket. The clock's second hand hesitated at 12, then scurried on as if nothing had happened, while somewhere a concealed dot of glass caught a sliver of your breath and made it into evidence. You told yourself you were imagining things. After all, you placed your keys in the same bowl by the door. The bowl still sang its small ceramic note. After all, you folded the blanket, shut down the television, checked the bolt. But imagination does not tilt picture frames by half a degree in an empty room, and suspicion does not leave faint tacky rings on the back of an outlet plate. So I speak with a voice that does not fit inside the walls. I land like a hand on your shoulder, not to startle you, but to settle you. The night is not empty, it is full of alarms that learn to whisper. The story of this watcher begins long before the first pixel of you was trapped, and it ends with you walking out of this room with your head unbowed. He began with curiosity, a seed that should have been thrown back to the sea. Instead, he watered it. He learned how to linger without being seen, not as a ghost, but as a gardener pruning away the parts of himself that would have stopped him: shame, hesitation, decency. What remained learned the soft geometry of angles and shadows. What remained found courage not to build, but to burrow. He learned your rhythms the way a thief learns a lock, by listening. The house has music, every home does. Your kettle whistle is a bright flute at 7:08. Your shower taps beat a quick snare at 7:23. The bedroom door is a cello, the couch a drum skin, the windows a choir when wind rehearses with them. He memorized your symphony until he could sing along, silently, lip-syncing your life. But even the careful miss a note. Even the careful cannot quiet everything. A screw left shy by a single quarter turn, a dot that reflects light like a raindrop that never falls, a wire that forgets to behave like darkness. These are the places where my wing passes and the truth stirs. Tonight, I draw a line down the house like a sword through water. On one side is fear. On the other side is knowledge. You stand by the sink, feeling watched but not knowing where to look. So I guide your eyes, not to the obvious places, those are for television stories, but to the margins. The underside lip of the bookshelf where you never dust because you can't see it. The narrow seam above the molding where paint gathered like frost. The small hole drilled from the back of a picture frame that only looks like it came that way from the store. You move slowly. You do not panic. You breathe into the edges of the room until the edges breathe back. The hum of the refrigerator is just a hum. The tick of the clock is just a tick. But the dark coin near the plant, the coin that is not a coin, throws a timid reflection when your phone screen lights up, and you feel the first certainty crackle down your spine like heat. He chose his hiding places like a gambler choosing cards he thinks are marked. But I have marked the world first, with protections that awaken when called. And you are calling, even if you do not realize it. Every doubt you name is a flare I can see. Every careful step you take is a page turning in a book I already know the end of. In his mind, he is not a monster. He is a historian preserving moments. He tells himself that he is building a museum of you, and museums are noble. He tells himself that if he never speaks to you, if he never steps into your light, then there is no harm, only admiration. But admiration that trespasses is not admiration, it is appetite. And appetite that dresses as devotion is no less devouring. So I place memory in your hands like a map. Remember the package that arrived a week late, from a return address you didn't know, containing a device you didn't order, complimentary gift, the note said, a small cube with a charm of convenience. Remember the maintenance man who spoke too quickly and left too abruptly and never returned the form you signed. Remember the neighbor who waves with all 5 fingers but never shows you his palms. The watcher is not supernatural. He is made of errands and excuses. He is made of sticky notes and cheap tools and an eye that decided it deserved more than it had been given. He is made of the kind of patience that forgets to be kind. He is made of hours scribbled out of his job, out of his sleep, invested instead in studying your face in the glow of a screen he darkens when someone walks by. You do not need to know his name to reclaim your name. You do not need to know his favorite coffee to reclaim your morning. You do not need to win an argument you didn't start in order to end it. What you need is to step into a different arrangement with your fear. The arrangement where fear is a messenger that bows when you say thank you and then leaves by the back door. I will not frighten you with fire. I will walk with you through each room, and we will look. The living room first, that plant with the coin. You tilt the pot, soil clings to roots like stubborn thoughts. Beneath, a small disc thinner than a fingernail, wired with a filament hair. You place it on the table as gently as if it were a moth, because anger can break things you need to understand. Next, the bookshelf. The underside seam holds a blister of paint that pops when you press it with your thumb, and inside is a hollow barely big enough to hide a pupil. This is not cinematics, it is simple, shabby trespass. The picture frame yields a pinhole when you hold it to the light. The outlet cover remembers a screwdriver that was not yours. The fire alarm sings a note it did not learn in the factory. You are not alone in this room. I say this not because I am here, but because walls remember the hands that built them, and those hands are an inheritance of protection. Think of the women and men who measured these studs and cut these boards and carried these sheets of drywall like shields. They did not know your name, but they made a space where your name could be said safely. Tonight, we lay claim to that promise again. He imagined the moment of discovery as catastrophe, sirens, fists, punishments that look good on television. He did not imagine the softer brutality of being seen as he is. He did not imagine the simple, cold precision of you gathering the little eyes into a bowl and setting them beside your keys. He did not imagine you turning on every light in the house and sitting down, upright, steady, as if to say, "Make yourself small now, because I am not." I see him in another room, far from here, a screen lighting his face to the color of counterfeit dawn. He leans forward, then back, then forward again as the picture jolts, his angles go wrong, his audio slips. Where he expects you to move in fear, you move in clarity. Where he expects you to cry quietly, you place each device on the table and look at it like a teacher looks at a broken compass. Archangel Michael says, "None of this is your shame. The shame belongs to the hands that took without asking, to the thought that ate the boundary and called it dessert. You carry no debt for returning what was stolen. You carry only the weight of your own steadiness, and that weight is not heavy, it is an anchor. He is not a mythic villain, but his choices have consequences that stretch farther than his intentions. People tell themselves that lines are suggestions, they are not. People tell themselves that watching is not touching, it is. People tell themselves that if no one screams, no one has been hurt. Hurt does not need to scream to count. You breathe and your breathing changes the room. Air moves differently when it moves around someone who has decided. You decide to live in a house where you are not a stranger. You decide to be present to your own life in a way that locks 1,000 small doors without hardening your heart. You decide that your image belongs to you the way your reflection belongs to you. It goes where you go and no farther. I do not ask you to erase tonight. I ask you to plant it. Stories like this can bloom into bitterness, but they can also bloom into boundary, flowers that are both beautiful and guarded, bright and unapologetic. You will wake in the morning with a new respect for your own attention. You will notice the way the morning light describes your table. You will know that you are not wrong when you feel a thread pulling at your sleeve from nowhere. He will not understand this part. He will imagine that your calm is calm the way he imagines everything, through the lens of his want. He will think calm means you don't mind. He will think gathered devices are trophies, not evidence. He will think silence is permission. But your silence tonight is not emptiness. It is the sound of a gate closing with careful hands, of a garden being tended by someone who knows the names of their plants. The house breathes. The shadows rearrange themselves into honest shapes. The clock's second hand stops hesitating. The lamplight warms without buzzing. In this atmosphere, you stand up, Stretch the ache out of your neck, and remind your body that it is your first home and your last, and it is loved. I trace a circle of protection around the handles you touch often, the kettle, the cabinet, the window sash. I trace one around your pillow, which knows the shape of your head and keeps your dreams in the proper temperature. I trace one around the door that leads outside and one around the thoughts that lead inside. He will feel something he cannot name. It will be the feeling of a door closing somewhere, which is true. It will be the feeling of a story choosing a different ending, which is also true. He will feel as though he has been unplugged not from power, but from presumption. This is mercy he will not recognize until he learns the hard way that what he took was not his to carry and was heavier than he could bear. You are not defined by the eyes that took you without invitation. You are defined by the eyes you use now, clear, awake, compassionate to yourself. You are defined by the way you pick up your own life with both hands and hold it where it belongs, in your possession, under your guardianship, beneath a sky that answers to no one but truth. In the kitchen, the bowl of small devices sits like a collection of fossils from a beast that went extinct tonight. You do not gloat. Fossils are not proof of triumph, but of learning. You learn that vigilance can be a form of love when it is not suspicion dressed in armor. You learn that love for yourself is not indulgence, it is instruction. I do not depart with fanfare. Angels are often mistaken for storms, but I prefer to be mistaken for the feeling inside a good decision. As you move through the rooms and the rooms move through you, I settle into the corners where cobwebs used to be and leave behind a shine not visible to the wrong kind of eyes. He will hear about that shine from people who knew you before tonight and after. They will say that you look the same but stand differently. They will say that your laughter carries less apology, that your silence carries more respect. They will not know the specifics, and they do not need to. Your life is not a map anyone else is permitted to fold. Let's talk about your heart, which noticed all along. It sent you little messages that seemed like mischief, a quickened beat, a catch in the throat, a reluctance to sit in that one chair in that one corner. Your heart is on your side, it always was. Tonight, you become fluent in its language again. You may discover, in the coming days, that the world tries to return you to the old arrangement. Habit is persuasive. Habits worn by other people are nearly tyrants. But my voice does not fade when the sun comes up. I have spoken your name into the frame of this place, and the frame remembers. Each morning will ask you a kind question: how will you live here today? And each night will answer, like someone who belongs. The watcher's story will travel on without you. It will travel into rooms with rules and names and consequences, or it will wither in a darkness that even he no longer wants to occupy. That is not your work. Your work is joy with guardrails. Your work is peace with a backbone. Your work is artful living, unfilmed, unharvested, not because you are hiding but because you are whole. There will be moments when the memory of this night flickers, a chill in summer shade, a mirror that seems too attentive. In those moments, you can place your hand flat against the table where the devices once sat, and you can feel how empty it is now. You can feel how broad your ownership is over this surface, this hour, this breath. Ownership is a warm word when it is earned. One more scene before sleep, the window. The glass carries the residue of fingerprints you did not make. You clean it, slowly, with water and a cloth, watching as the streaks become clarity. You think of all the ideas you've had about yourself that came from reflections you didn't choose. You wash those too. When you are finished, the window shows your face and the sky and nothing else. I step back. I let the night be quiet again, the honest quiet, not the quiet that hides things. Your phone lies face down, uninteresting. Your door is a boundary that requires no explanation. Your bed is a simple promise. Before you sleep, you write your name on a small card and place it where you will see it in the morning. You are not reclaiming your name, you are celebrating it. If you dream, let it be of a narrow path in a wide field, the path lined with candles that do not burn down. Walk the path at any pace you wish, the candles wait. At the end is not a lesson but a chair by a window and a cup that is already warm, and in the glass you can see yourself, not spied upon, not corrected, not collected, simply seen by the only eyes that matter. When dawn comes, allow yourself to notice the micro-blessings, the kettle's first thin thread of steam, the way socks slide onto your feet like small clouds, the way the door latch sounds like a quiet agreement when you step out. Your life continues. Not as denial, but as announcement. He will look for you where he left you, in the frame he mistook for a cage, but you are not where he placed you, because he never had the right to place you anywhere. You are in the living version of your life, where light and choice and attention move together. That is a country he cannot visit without changing his citizenship. You do not watch the bowl of devices all day, you have better things to do. You do not tell the story in a way that makes you smaller, you tell it in a way that fits, if and when you choose to tell it at all. You do not carry the watcher like a backpack of rocks, you leave him in the past with other people who tried to borrow what was never for loan. Archangel Michael says, "The world is full of hidden eyes and open hearts." The task is not to close every eye, you cannot. The task is to live from the open heart in a way that makes your life too bright to steal, your boundaries too clear to cross, your sense of self too rooted to be uprooted by someone else's hunger. In coming weeks, you might rearrange the furniture, not because you are frightened but because you are free. You might place the chair where light lands at noon. You might find that the couch belongs under the window now. You might align the table with the grain of the floorboards. Such small changes are not just aesthetics, they are declarations. If anyone asks what changed, you can say, "I became the main witness of my life." That is what tonight gave you. Not a new fear, but a new fidelity, to your noticing, to your choosing, to your belonging. And fidelity like that is its own kind of armor, the soft kind that breathes, the strong kind that doesn't clatter. The watcher believed he owned the narrative because he had the footage. But footage is a shadow without a source. You are the source. And a shadow cannot argue with a sun that has decided to rise. There is a place in every home where the air feels like agreement. In yours, it might be the corner of the living room where the floor doesn't creak, or the spot by the window where plants reach up as if in prayer. Stand there sometimes and breathe on purpose. Not to check for danger, but to remember the feeling of safety that comes from you rather than from any hidden guarantee. I will keep an eye on the thresholds, the in-betweens, doors, windows, passwords, the spaces between intention and action. You keep an eye on tenderness. This is our covenant. We meet in the middle, your steadiness and my guardianship, and the middle becomes a bridge you can cross whenever you need. Let the bowl of devices be gone by sunset, returned, handed over, resolved in whichever exact way your life requires. Let that table hold simple things again, a book you love, fruit, a letter from someone whose eyes you welcome. Let your rooms return to their original language: shelter, light, quiet, laughter, rest. A final word, and it is not a threat but a blessing shaped like a boundary. Any gaze that approaches your life without invitation will find my shadow waiting between it and you. Any story that tries to wear your face will find that it does not fit. Any fear that calls itself foreknowledge will be taught the difference between wisdom and worry at the threshold of your door. Now, go to sleep. Let the house keep watch the way houses are meant to. Let the night be night, not theater. In the morning, wake into the simple holiness of ordinary things, the ones no camera can capture because they were never meant to be captured, only lived. Archangel Michael says, "The night did not end when you closed your eyes, it shifted shape and stood guard at your door." A hush settled over the rooms like fresh snow, and underneath that hush a new law took root. The law is simple and strong: nothing enters this space without your consent. Morning arrives like a soft drumbeat at the window. You sit up and feel how the air has changed, how it sits lighter on your shoulders. The house answers you with quiet confidence, as if it too has chosen. You move to the table where the bowl once held the hidden eyes, and you see wood, grain, and sunlight. Evidence has been replaced by everyday grace. The room does not perform anymore, it simply exists. Archangel Michael says, "Begin with water. Let it run in the sink until it is perfectly itself, cool and bright. Cup your hands and splash your face, not to erase last night but to bless your present. You choose clothing for the day as if each thread is an oath. Fabrics that do not apologize, colors that do not flinch. The mirror reflects a person who owns their image from the inside out. There are calls to make and steps to take, and you take them with careful rhythm. Documentation first, then resolution, then rest. Each action is a measured stone in the foundation of your peace. You open a small notebook and write what you remember in clear lines. Dates, times, details that felt small yesterday but stand tall today. Not a diary of fear, but a ledger of clarity. Archangel Michael says, "Guard your attention like a lantern in wind." You do not need to scan the horizon every second to remain safe. You need to choose where your eyes live, and why. You set new habits into the day the way a gardener sets stakes beside young plants. A simple walk through each room in the morning with a calm eye. A weekly sweep of corners and seams with gentle hands. You upgrade what needs upgrading, not from panic but from respect. A better lock on the door, a wiser password on the account, a cleaner line between public and private. Small changes that speak loudly. You tell a trusted person with measured words. They listen, and the listening itself is medicine. Your story is not swallowed by drama, it is held by care. Archangel Michael says, "Secrecy thrives in clutter, but it starves in order." You place a tray by the entrance for all that comes in, packages, papers, permissions. Each item waits for your discernment like a guest waiting to be invited into the living room. You label devices with simple names that remind you who is in charge. This is the lamp, this is the speaker, this is the router. You call them by their purpose, and they behave. You teach your home a new routine. Lights answer your touch and no one else's. The door greets only those you welcome. The windows stand as friends who see both ways. The day cannot be only structure, it must also hold sweetness. You brew tea and let steam curl around your face like a friendly ribbon. You eat slowly and taste each bite as if tasting is a form of protection. Archangel Michael says, there is a difference between vigilance and hypervigilance. One is a steady candle, the other burns the house down from the inside. Choose the candle that lasts. You step outside and the world feels both familiar and fresh. The street holds its traffic and its trees, and you move through both with a posture that is yours. Your steps realize they have been promoted from survival to sovereignty. The watcher exists beyond your fence, and your fence exists beyond the watcher. He can stare at the boundary, but staring is not crossing. He can imagine your rooms, but imagination is not entry. The path to accountability finds its way as water finds the sea. It goes where gravity pulls and where channels have been cut by time and truth. You let that path work while you go on living. Archangel Michael says, celebrate the quiet upgrades no one else will notice. The way you stand while waiting in line. The choice to close certain tabs and open better ones. The decision to turn off the screen and open a book. You practice a simple exercise every evening. Stand in the center of a room and breathe 3 times, long and even. Speak your name once, softly, as if reminding the walls who they belong to. You rearrange a shelf not because it was wrong but because it can be more right. The photo that once faced the door now faces the window. The bowl that held keys now holds oranges. Symbols matter when they are earned. The oranges are not just fruit, they are a declaration of welcome to yourself. The photo is not just an image, it is a reminder that light is the truest frame. Archangel Michael says, "You owe no performance to curiosity that breaks the covenant of respect. You owe all your tenderness to the life that keeps you whole." That tenderness is not weakness, it is architecture. Days pass and your senses recalibrate. You hear the house's honest music again, the floor's polite creak, the kettle's proud whistle, the rain's applause. These sounds carry you rather than clutch at you. You notice how morning light draws a thin silver line along the cabinet edge. You notice how dust dances when you laugh. You notice that you have returned to noticing. The bowl on the table holds simple things now. A smooth stone from a walk. A ticket stub from a film that made you feel seen. A note to future you that says keep going. Archangel Michael says, the body stores interruption, and it also stores recovery. The spine learns to lengthen again. The jaw learns to loosen. The breath learns that the next breath will arrive. Sometimes memory knocks anyway. You meet it at the door like a firm host. You let it say its piece and then you thank it for the warning it once carried and show it the exit. You choose companions with precision that feels like kindness. People who look at you rather than at what you can be for them. People who ask to be in your life and respect a no as much as a yes. You speak your boundaries without footnotes. Clear sentences that stand up straight. Agreements that feel like strong bridges rather than traps. Archangel Michael says, the opposite of being watched without consent is not hiding, it is belonging. Belonging in your skin, belonging in your rooms, belonging among people who love in daylight. Belonging ends the hunger that secrecy tries to feed. The watcher's narrative shrinks like a sweater in hot water. It does not fit you because it never did. You are not the character he wrote. You are the author of your hours. There is a moment on a Thursday when you realize you have gone several hours without thinking about lenses or angles. That moment is small and enormous. You mark it with a smile and then carry on. You give yourself permission to adorn again. A flower in a jar on the sill. A print on the wall that makes your chest open. A blanket that feels like being held without being controlled. Archangel Michael says, generosity toward yourself is a form of security. When you feed your life what it truly needs, cravings that do not belong to you lose their grip. The house eats joy and digests it into steadiness. You create a ritual for entering and leaving. A hand on the doorframe for a heartbeat. A word in your mind that means home. Routines like these tell your nervous system the truth. You are safe enough to be real. You set aside time for the practical. Review, replace, refresh. Evidence, if needed, goes where evidence should go, handled by hands that handle such things. Not the center of the story, but a chapter that serves the ending you prefer. The ending you prefer is not revenge, it is rootedness. Roots go deep and wide, making storms into music. Roots make shade for others who are learning the same lesson with the same brave breath. Archangel Michael says, "The light in your window is no longer bait, it is beacon." It says to the world, in this home, dignity lives. In this home, consent speaks first. In this home, the heart on the wall is a lock, not a lure. You find yourself teaching without a podium. A friend hears strength in your voice and adds a lock to their own door. A neighbor sees how you pause and breathe and remembers to do the same. Quiet leadership travels far. Time carves a new groove. Weeks fold into a rhythm where your name sounds clear again when spoken aloud. The echo that used to carry it to the wrong ears now carries it back to you. You mend what was frayed. A curtain hem, a chipped cup, a forgotten promise to yourself. Repair is a ritual of self-respect dressed in needle and thread. Archangel Michael says, courage often looks like maintenance. It looks like keeping what you love in good working order. It looks like choosing the boring good over the exciting harm. You build a small practice for closing the day. A notebook entry with 3 lines: what steadied me, what I steward, what I will not carry to bed. The pen becomes a key that locks the door to worry.